afternoon, sir. How are you today?
Hey, you're real.
I sure hope so.
I thought you were a statue.
I've been called a lot of things, but never a statue.
Have a good day.
You too.
James Marshall discovered gold in 1848 on the South Fork of the American River in the valley the Nisenan Indians knew as Coloma, meaning beautiful valley. This event led to the greatest mass movement of people in the Western Hemisphere and was the spark that ignited the spectacular growth of the West during the ensuing decades. The gold discovery site, located in the still visible tail race of Sutter's sawmill in present-day Coloma, California, is one of the most significant historic sites in the nation.
We're gonna start looking for gold. So how do we do that? We take our pan, we stick it all the way down to the bottom of the trough, and then we scrape across the bottom. It's very important to scrape across the bottom because gold is 14 to 15 times heavier than the water and 4 to 5 times heavier than everything else in the trough. So we're gonna get a pan that's full of dirt, just like this, and then we're gonna put it underwater and turn it back and forth like we're steering a race car through a windy racetrack. And we're gonna do that for about 10 seconds so that the dirt and the sand comes up and the gold settles to the bottom. Because we need the gold at the bottom so we can get rid of the rocks and the sand to see if we have any gold in our pan. So after we've done this for 10 seconds, we're gonna pull it up and we're gonna feel for our ridges. You guys see those pans have ridges? What those ridges do is they catch the gold as we get rid of the rocks and the sand. So there's 3 of them, so we can get rid of rocks and sand 3 times before we have to reset our pan. So I'm gonna demonstrate that for you now. So we're gonna tilt our pan down in the water, and we're gonna push 1, 2, 3. 3 times for the 3 ridges. And then we're gonna put it underwater, spin it for a couple seconds, pull it up, 1, 2, 3. And now we're gonna look and see if we have any gold in our pan. And we're gonna use the water to do that. So we're gonna we're gonna spin our pan so the water goes in a circular motion. And as we do that, the light sand is gonna get pulled down. And if there's gonna be any gold, it'll be at the top because it's much heavier. So let's spin it around and look at our top and see if we have any gold up there. Looks like that we maybe don't from this time.
Oh, wait. Where'd it go? I have something. Ah. I have something here. So I got something, I don't know what it is.
Piece of fool's gold.
Fool's gold, of course.
Of course.
Do we have enough to buy lunch?
No. And then to get rid of that sand, I'm going to dip it, pull it, dip it, pull it, dip it.
Oh, in the water.
I do it in the water. It
Okay.
makes the sand stay better in the pan.
I like your technique.
But, well, you have to find one that works
Sure.
for you. And I shake it 3 times, 1, 2, 3. Go back in the water. I use the water to help get the job done best.
Well, that's what I was doing. I was dipping it and then pulling it out and then
Okay.
dipping it. But I like your technique. Just do it in the water.
Because I'm a
Yeah.
speed trainer.
Yeah.
It's a contest thing. And
Who are you racing against?
California people. I came in second for the United States.
So they actually plant gold in there?
Yeah,
And
you,
then,
don't,
so,
you have no idea.
so they can see how good you are or not?
Yeah, how fast you are.
Mm-hmm. Do you get to keep it?
No, unless you win. It's just the timing thing and the fun of it, because it's a contest. You want to go out in the sun? I'm not sure. That's turning brown. Gold doesn't turn brown. So I'm not too sure if that's a piece or not. We'll go out and look in the sun. Well, it just turned color. I think
Those two pieces there?
I think that's pyrite. Maybe not. It's something is attached. Copper is probably attached. I'm not sure. No, I'm not sure. Oh, that's a garnet. Hey, did you find any garnets yet?
No.
This is a garnet. Garnets are red, pink, and purple. Garnets are what they make jewelry out of, but not our garnets. Is what you want, if you can, is get it down to the black sand, because the black sand is iron, and that's where the gold's going to be hiding, because it's almost the same weight. So you want to shake it, bring it back up. I'm going to get that sand down here. By swirling. See, I can't tell because I've got my sunglasses on. But see, there's a speck right there.
Right.
I'm not going to bother with that. But that probably is gold.
We had the privilege of taking a walking tour with a 20-year docent of the park.
30% of our vegetation in this park is non-native. A lot of it was brought in by gold miners. Seeds are easy to carry. They knew they would be here for a couple of years. Why not bring some seeds along? Vegetation that reminds you of home. So we have things like these black locusts over here. This is a southeastern United States tree brought by gold miners. This is a tree of heaven over here. The one with what looks like flowers on it. Those are actually seed pods. That whole area out there was orchard at one time, and there's only one tree left. There's an apple tree out there in the middle. Certain times of the year, you'll see the deer over there on their hind legs getting apples out of that. Same with these figs. They'll lay under the fig trees waiting for them to fall.
What is this?
It's a white fig.
So when they're ready, they usually drop?
Yeah, or you just pick them.
Wait, how do you know when they're ready?
They're going to be big, and they'll just pop right off the tree. You know, right now, I'm not going to pick this one, but if this was ripe, it would just go.
And they change color, yeah?
Some of them do. We have black figs and we have white figs.
And these are blackberry?
These are split leaf blackberry, or what we call Humboldt blackberry. And this is a non-native species. We have a California blackberry. It looks very similar to this, but it's not as hardy as this. So this will take over from the California blackberry.
It's like a parasite.
Yeah, yeah. And these, as I say, these right now they're getting ripe, and they're delicious. Boy, there's a lot of ripe ones up in here too. Great.
During our honeymoon, we picked up in 11. Oh boy, that's
Grapes.
Yeah. Now we don't know if this is native grape because they'd had native grapes here, or if it was introduced, because James Marshall, the discoverer of gold, had 14 acres up on this side of this hill, terraced, and he had it in orchard and vineyard. He made wine and brandy.
Is there a way to figure out?
There probably is. There probably, we got some, some phenology people from UC Davis out here. What we've got here is we've got something, they're cascading down the hill. Well, we're looking at Grandmother Rock here. And this was a Native American village site, and it was for, probably 1,500 to 2,000 years. This was an extended family that lived here. They were living here when James Marshall built the sawmill across this way over here. These bedrock mortar holes, they would have, in the old days, if you would have walked up here, they would have had pestles sticking out of them. I found them that way, which means that I was most likely the first person to have found that site, but because they're immediately removed. So what they did here was the women would prepare food in these holes. They would go out and gather acorns and buckeyes. They would shell them here, throw the meat in these holes, take the pestle, grind it up. Then they would remove that, put it in a basket, take it over to the river, put some big leaves down in the river in a place where the water's just slowly moving. Put the mush on top of that and allow the water to course over it. They're full of tannic acid, both of those are, and so you got to remove the tannin. So they would allow the water to do that. You taste it every once in a while, and when it's no longer bitter, it's edible. So they bring it back over here, and now they're going to cook it in a basket. They didn't have iron tools, so they made waterproof baskets. They were just incredibly good basket makers. And the way you cook in a basket is they would take wild grape vine, make tongs out of it, take a hot rock out of the fire pit, dip it in water, that'll knock all the ash off of it, and then you throw that hot rock into the basket and take a stick and keep it moving so it doesn't scorch the basket. And the same, but about that time you got the kids down there picking some blackberries. They come back with them, throw that in there, mix it up. You've got a very nutritious, tasty treat. Remember, Marshall discovers gold in January, and the 49ers don't get here until the very next year. Well, there's a whole year here where people from Peru, Chile, Mexico, the Sandwich Islands, Oregon, came here. And these guys from Oregon left their families behind, came down here as a group, and when they got here and they found out that Marshall and the Wimmers and so forth are all chummy with the Indians, they didn't like that one bit. They had fought for control of the Willamette Valley with the Indians, and they had a chip on their shoulder against these Indians. So a group of these men are up on the north or middle fork of the American River looking for gold, and they come across an Indian village. They raped a woman, murdered a man. They left. When the hunters of that group came home and found out what happened, they went after these guys, and they caught up with them at a place we now call Murderer's Bar. And they killed 3 of them. The rest of these guys got away, came back here, got semi-organized, got drunk, and came over here and grabbed the 7 Native American men that lived here. They put them in a makeshift jail down the way and decided that they were going to hang them for what had happened up on the Middle Fork. James Marshall tries to stop this. He said, "You're an Indian lover. We're going to hang you too." Fortunately, he was able to get away. The Native Americans, when they found out what was going to happen to them, they ran in all directions. Bark houses. They're made out of cedar bark. Why cedar? Natural bug repellent.
And fire resistant.
Yeah. So these were built by local Native Americans for us a number of years ago. And if you would have seen these in the past, when they were occupied, there would have been a big hide across the door. Pull the hide back, there'd be pine needles on the floor, 3 to 4 inches thick. And over that, animal hides would tear up. Simple fire pit. They actually had a garden floor. Okay. So the smoke finds its way up the chute. And in the summertime, they would just pull a hide out. So this is an exceptionally good replica. We actually have the plans for this in Marshall's hand. So Marshall comes to California in 1845, and he goes to Sutter's Fort, and Sutter hires him immediately. He's a skilled person. His dad taught him the skill of wagon right. He can manufacture an entire wagon, so he's a blacksmith and a carpenter. So after working for Sutter a couple of years, Sutter asks him if he can build a sawmill. And he said, yes, as a young man, I worked at one, and I remember how it was constructed. And Sutter says, well, go up in the mountains and find a place to build me a sawmill. And Marshall says, no. He says, I'll build a sawmill, but it's going to be a partnership. Now, Marshall was 37 years old. He had always worked for other people. He saw this as an opportunity to have his own business. Sutter agreed. There's lots of places up here in the mountains that have the wood and the water, but they're inaccessible. And this place is accessible. You can get a wagon load of supplies all the way from Sutter's Fort all the way to here. And that's why they built it here. But it was actually constructed right at that stone wall over there. That's where it's at.
Yeah, I was going to ask, this obviously isn't the original location.
No. So in those days, the river didn't go straight like it does now. Raft full of people. There was a bend in the river. They crossed the bend with a ditch. They built the sawmill out here. They put floodgates here to stop the flow when they wanted to. We got to work. Right? The Mormon boys, they were the workmen. They had come to California to fight Mexico. By the time they got here, the war was over. They were looking for more work. They needed to find their families. They didn't quite know where everybody was. That was the time of the dispersion of the Mormons. And so Sutter was hiring, and a large group of them came north from San Diego. And Sutter hired 5 men. They came up here and put the foundation down. Then they went back, and 5 other ones built the whole thing with Marshall and a couple of other people. So they got a problem with the sawmill. They decided to start it up. They opened the floodgates, allowed the water to come rushing through. Saw blades started going up and down. It was cutting wood, nice and straight boards. They were surprised how nice the cuts were. But then somebody notices that the water is backing up in the tail race, this portion of the ditch that brings the water back to the river. And it continues to back up until finally it stopped the flutter wheel, the big wheel there. They had a problem. They hadn't dug the tail race deep enough. So they shut the flow of water off, allow it to dissipate, and then they start digging this deeper. The morning of January 24th, Marshall is down inspecting the job site like he did every morning. He's standing on a high spot in about 3 inches of water, and he looks down at his feet, and there's something very shiny in the water. He picks it up, puts it on a rock, grabs another rock, and starts smashing it. Now, Marshall has a 5th grade education, and his favorite subjects are astronomy and geology. He knows that gold found in nature is going to be very soft and malleable. And so by beating it between those rocks, he's testing it, and sure enough, it flattens out. Then he looks down at his feet, and he sees that there are all these golden particles all around his feet. He takes his hat off, caves the top of it in, and starts picking up these pieces of gold and putting them in the top of his hat. In a half hour's time, he had picked up $15 worth of gold. This is $8.50 right here. Then the workmen finish breakfast, so they're getting on the job site. He walks over to them and he says, "By God, boys, I believe I found me a gold mine." And the first one that looks at it says, "I think not." Sutter has an agricultural empire based on human labor. What happens if his workmen leave? He doesn't have anything. Yeah, who's going to run the tannery? Who's going to run the cattle? And who's going to bring in the crops? Who's going to run the distillery? Yeah. So, how many people know the secret? Okay, we've got 5 Mormon boys here. We've got the Wimmer family, 5 of them. We've got a teamster that came up with some supplies. Marshall, Sutter. Can that many people keep a secret?
No.
No. So the word gets out and the world rushes in. In 1848, we estimate that the 6,000 people that came up here found $10 million worth of gold. When you split it between all those people, we're talking about an ounce of gold per person per day. Now these men are working for $1 a day, and an ounce of gold is $20. That's a serious incentive to come here. The next year, 90,000 people show up. They find $50 million worth of gold. But when you split it between all those people, we're talking about half an ounce, $10 per person per day. The next year, another 90,000 people show up. We become a state. They find $75 million worth of gold. But now we're talking about a quarter of an ounce of gold per person per day. You get here a little late, 1853, 54, you're going to be making wages, $1 a day. Now that's not to say the gold is gone, and that's not to say that some people aren't finding big pockets of gold. They are, and that keeps the momentum going. But the bottom line is, statistically, you're making wages.
And by finding it, you mean panning for it?
Yes, yes. We're not doing any hard rock gold mining quite yet. It's coming.
We're on the Gold Discovery Loop Trail, and I'm looking for gold. A lot of flakes in here. Nothing. This jail was completed in 1856 while Coloma was still the county seat of El Dorado. This jail was made of only granite blocks and steel, making it one of the most impressive and secure jails in California at the time. Mining ditches were dug by ditch companies to carry the vast amounts of water needed for placer mining. Thousands of miles of ditches and flumes were built in the gold country. Some brought immense profits to their owners due to the cost of water. This is Coloma's Catholic cemetery. Many of the early burials were marked by wooden markers that have long since disappeared. The oldest existing headstone is dated 1861.